make a definitive statement about the regular season not meaning anything, because I think if they didn't have those three players in the regular season, you're looking at Cleveland, instead of being 61-21, probably 21-61.
Something in that range. When you look at the style of ball, of course, I guess we're taping now, but the Celtics, they shot 15 of 60 from 3-point shot, 3 points. Yeah. I mean, that's like basically 45 turnovers.
By the way, my question there would be, after they were up by 20, because I didn't keep track of it, how many times after they were up by 20 did they attempt 3-pointers? Because if you're up by 20,
almost every shot.
And if you're up by 20, why risk it? Why not work the clock down and try and get a good shot, maybe draw a foul? That's how the other team gets back in the game. You shoot and miss your threes when you're up by 20.
Well, it's like I said, it's like a turnover, and these teams don't. Yeah. They don't. I don't know that they don't practice, because I'm not there with them. I don't watch their practices and stuff. But it's almost like they don't know how to run a play other than just go outside and shoot the three. I mean,
that's supposed to be coaching, right?
What is coaching?
That's unfortunate. That's, I guess,
I don't know. Maybe you got to ask LeBron what coaching is.
All right, so I know you guys did a few shows already this week, and a lot of it had to center around the basketball shows I'm talking about, center around the fact that these dogs have ruled the day so far. They have been so far dominated. How many games have we seen in the second round?
5.
And
how many have played twice?
And how many have the dogs covered?
All of them.
They've won all 5 outright.
Won all 5 outright. Yes. Okay, so
Greg, keep this in mind. They're all 10-point dogs or more, except for Minnesota Warriors, which was only about 7.
In fact, Greg, and I did it with Jim the other day, if you had made the single game on Sunday, which was Cavs and Pacers, and then the doubleheader on Monday, which was Celtics, Knicks, and Nuggets, OKC. If you had said, "Oh, what the heck? Let me throw $100 money line parlay on the Sunday-Monday games," okay? So you would have been backing Indiana over Cleveland straight up. You would have been backing the Knicks over Boston straight up, and the Nuggets over OKC straight up. That $100 parlay, the 3-team money line parlay, returned $8,000.
Well, that would have been sweet.
Yeah, and now we've had 2 more to add to it. So and by the way, if you were smart, well, if you were really aggressive, you might have continued to parlay the 8,000. But if you were smart and Jim, as we talked about, you want to try and show a profit, I would take at least half of that 8,000, 4,000, and bank it. And if you want to do the 4,000 money line on, put the 4,000 money line on what was the first game yesterday? I guess it was Pacers again in Cleveland. You would have won a nice money line there, and then you could take some more out and put balance on it on Minnesota on a Golden State last night and come up. But what we saw with these first 5 underdogs, and who knows what's going to happen tonight, probably we'll never see again in any of our lifetimes.
No. So does that mean? So I guess the catch then is, since we're just airing this show once a week, it's Wednesday. The dogs have already won 5 straight. Have we missed the boat?
Well, yeah, probably. But the thing is, Greg, and here's the issue. All the media all year long has said the 3 best teams are Oklahoma City, the Cavaliers, and the Celtics. They're the 3. The media has been telling us that all year long, that they're the 3 best teams. And they all lost their home court, and they didn't only not cover, they didn't win. And so... yeah, it's a media-driven thing. When you look at these lines, they're all double digits again. These other teams are not that bad. These lines should not be that big.
So, well, you just said, though, but you said we missed the boat, though. So you're saying you think these things will even out?
We missed the boat in terms of asking.
I know you didn't miss the boat,
straight up, but taking the points with all these road teams is still. You have a positive EV because the lines are too high. You can't make these lines this high.
Look, we saw it last night with Indiana. Cleveland, even shorthanded, was still a solid favorite. It came down, but it opened like 10. And I think where did it close, Jim? Around 6, 6.5, 7 maybe for Cleveland
actually,
when it was.
Andy, that game closed 5.
Okay, so a lot of money came in when it was confirmed that the 3 Cleveland players were ruled out, and yet that still didn't stop the Pacers from coming back and not just covering but win the game. So even that adjustment was not enough to let the favorites come in. And I agree with Jim that these lines, even on the surface before any of these games were played, seemed to be unusually high. I can't remember, and that's where I mentioned about Mark, probably in his database, could tell us, have we ever had game ones? I'm going to say, well, maybe in an opening round, a 1 versus an 8, you might have had it. But have we ever had more than 1, possibly 2 opening series games after the first round of double digits? Because I would say if we have, it's probably been less than 5. Going back to
it certainly would not have been every game, which is we have now.
Not close. No.
Yeah.
Okay, close. So right now, if anybody's watching this, and this is just for anybody watching the show today, we're recording this on Wednesday, a little after 1 Eastern time. And we've got the 2 games tonight where you have, again, 10.5 point spreads, almost 4-1 on the money line. What would you suggest?
I personally could not lay the favorites. Even though if you talk about the zigzag theory that everybody usually follows, you're looking for these home teams to win. And then you could say, well, they're home going to win and they're going to cover. But I'm not going 10, 10.5, 11 points. This is crazy. So what I'm doing, I bet the Celtics first half, and I bet the Celtics over their team total. I'll probably do the same thing with OKC. I haven't done it yet.
Now, the reason that I might go with Boston only because you have to believe that they are not going to shoot as poorly later in the game from 3-pointer range as they did. Because remember, that got them up 20 points. So we know, and which is consistent with what Boston has done versus the Knicks in recent years, that they've been able to dominate that series. So I think the game 1 was the outlier. But what I might actually do, now see, one strategy would be, okay, you don't expect Boston to lose 2 straight at home. You don't expect Oklahoma City to lose 2 straight at home, although obviously they can after they've already lost the first. But you would think, oh, well, let's do a little money line parlay of Boston with OKC, but they're both in the neighborhood of 5, 5.5 to 1. That's not going to pay anything. So what I might do, wait for an opportunity, because I do expect Boston to win straight up. I do expect OKC to win straight up and go on the road 1-1. I will hope that the Knicks get out to a nice little lead, let's say in the second quarter, maybe even at halftime, come back and make either a small point spread play on Boston or a money line play on Boston if they're behind by like 8 to 10 points. And the same thing with OKC in that game, rather than make any play early in the game. Although I do agree with Jim that a first half play on both Boston and OKC certainly would be reasonable. And in fact, let me see if I can get those numbers right up now. As far
is
as
is that a little dangerous though? Flying in the face of this type of streak, where you're saying that if it's 5 straight dogs outright wins, that if both of the dogs get up early, you're going to go into the face of that 5-game win streak with the dogs. Now they're up in both games, and you're going to take the favorites.
Yes, absolutely. Because one result is not the fact that it's a streak is a streak of a situation, not an individual team streak, which I think is much more significant. In other words, the fact that all 5 underdogs won is more of a coincidence. The fact that, let's say, Oklahoma City has won 7 in a row, that's not a coincidence, because you're talking about the same team as opposed to 4 different teams winning. And of course, Indiana doing it twice, very fortunately. Now, just looking at the first half lines, there's still a price to pay. Boston, a 6.5 point first half favorite over the Knicks, and OKC is a 7-point home favorite over the Nuggets. But I would expect, based upon how those teams lost, especially OKC in that game, and Boston, of course, losing late, I would have to think both of these teams are going to come out gunning for bear, as you will. They're going to come out very aggressive, and I think that certainly we know Boston can do it. And I think OKC to a certain extent. I probably would feel more comfortable if I were going to play either of those underdogs tonight. I think I would feel more comfortable playing Denver, because we know Denver is a good team. They just won a championship a few years ago, so they've got the experience. And of course, we do know Boston's one-sided history against New York. And I think coming in of the 4 teams that are playing tonight, I think the Knicks are by far the weakest of the 4.
And Andy, let me ask you a question. Of the teams, there's 8 teams remaining in the playoffs right now. Of the 8 teams, and specifically talking about tonight's games, of course, which teams are least dependent on the 3-point shot?
You know, I don't have that as far as the numbers are concerned, but I would think that it might be OKC.
Why do you ask?
Well, there's a reason. But what Denver plays, I mean, Jokic is like the point center. He brings the ball up the floor a lot. So he can shoot the outside, but he sets up the other players a lot he'll drive into the paint a little bit and they'll dish it off. I think they play more old school basketball than any of the other teams. Now, I haven't seen OKC play that often this year. Yes, they've been the best or one of the top 2 teams in the league. You say that they play some old school basketball and don't depend on the 3 as much as the others. Is that what you just basically said?
I sort of said that, yeah. And when I take a look that the teams right now that are still in the 2 teams tonight, they both are almost identical as far as their 3-point field goal percentage, which is around the 36-37% for the 2
How about
2 games
attempts
tonight.
Yeah, attempts is a key.
Yeah,
I mean, Boston the other night shot 60 3-point shots. They only made 15, but they shot 60, which is insane.
So do you have?
Yeah, I don't have that number right in front of me as far as the number of attempts, but that is obviously 35% out of 60 shots per night is a lot different than 40% out of 30 shots per night.
Here's my point that I'm trying to make, or lean to make, is that I prefer the team that plays better, sounder, fundamental basketball than the 3-point shot, which is the most fickle statistic in all of basketball. When you shoot 20% one night, I mean, I think the Wolves last night shot 17% from 3, and they lost to the Warriors, who lost Curry in the first 13 minutes to an injury, and he may be out for a game or 2. We don't know. So,
well, the line certainly reflects that he's expected out.
Yes.
What's Minnesota 10 and a half now?
The point is, you're dealing with betting on the most fickle statistic in all of basketball, whether college or pro.
Yeah, the statistic that has the greatest degree of volatility and variability.
Exactly. So I'm personally thinking that when you look at teams that play more fundamental basketball, drive to the bucket, dish, rebound, offensive rebounding, plays, the screens, picks, backdoor stuff. You have to look at the Knicks, who don't have the talent, but they don't match up well with Boston's talent. But if you can get 25% shooting from Boston, you can beat them. When you look at Denver, who won a championship just a couple of years ago with one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world, they're going up against a very tough outfit with OKC but they're younger, and so bottom line is, I'm favoring the teams that play fundamental basketball over the teams that depend on the 3-point shot, which is so fickle. You could shoot 10% one night and 80% the next, but I can't depend on that. And
I'm not sure if NBA teams play fundamental basketball anymore, but
some of them do a little bit, at least partially.
They try to. Here's the percentages. New York is 28th in the NBA. Denver is 30th, last in 3-point attempts per game.
And that's what we're looking at. We're not looking at percentage then. We're looking at attempts.
That's
Boston is first by
number of
5 a game.
How much?
That's a huge
5.
margin.
That's how far they are than the second place team.
A little over 1 per quarter more than the opponent. More than the second best team.
So they average 47 a game. Golden State is second at 42 a game. That's how much Boston shoots the 3
and
every game.
is what, 30, just under
OKC
39.
OKC's 10th. Cleveland is 4th.
And where did you say?
Minnesota is 6th.
Right.
And then the teams that do it the least are towards the bottom.
New York and Denver, 28 and 30.
Yeah. So those are the so you got the Knicks at 28th and Celtics at 1st. So the complete opposite spectrum. One team shoots it the most and one team almost shoots it the least from 3.
So what you're basically saying now, when you extrapolate those numbers, is the team that's has the most volatility in their offense are the teams at the top of the list that use the 3 more in their offense than the team that they're playing. So
yeah, and it would be 2 of the favorites.
Denver and the Knicks are the teams you can depend on more to be shooting, going to the bucket, shooting 2s, and getting to the foul line because they get fouled underneath. They don't. That particular team, the Knicks, don't have the overall talent of the other 7 clubs, maybe, but they do have Brunson, who's absolutely amazing. But Denver, to me, is the real deal. They have the weapons. The coaching issue is crazy because they just fired their coach.
Yeah.
So, but they've done okay with him. I mean, he is.
So you want to take? So does that mean that Denver, with a 1-0 lead in the series, is a good buy at plus 235 to win the series?
I think so.
Yeah. By the way, what you just showed and what Jim was talking about, when you take a look at the numbers, Boston being number 1 and the Knicks being, 30 or 28, and then OKC being like number 10 and Denver being like 28, maybe it's not as shocking as we might have thought that both New York and Denver won those opening games, because both Denver and the Knicks rely on the 3-point, they're 28th and 30th, Boston number 1 and 10. So the team that relied on it more, Boston versus the Knicks and OKC versus Denver, ended up losing because they did not hit at the rate that we were accustomed to seeing.
Keep in mind, too, that when they play the regular season games, first of all, you don't always have your full lineups because they have the rest issue, the load management issue. But they're also playing a lot of weak teams because not every team in the league is that good. These are all good teams, really good teams. There's 8 really good teams here. So it's not that surprising that they're going to play better defense. They're going to guard the 3 a little bit better. They're going to rebound a little bit better. They're going to shoot foul shots a little bit better. So you have a lot more parity in these 8 teams than you do in the 30-some teams that play all year long. Therefore, the fundamentals of shooting a 3 against a better defensive lineup, you're going to have the games where you absolutely don't hit anything. I mean, Minnesota last night hit 17% of their threes. 17%. I could do that.
Well, they're playing a team, Golden State, though, that I believe is second for most
shots,
attempts. So you won't get anything there. Before we wrap up,
by the way, I'll just mention one point about this analysis that we're talking about. And Jim, you might have some experience as well. Greg, I don't know if you have the numbers on this either, but I would say you're talking, Jim, about the schedule that you play over the course of the regular season. And let's just talk about the playoff teams versus the non-playoff teams, or the teams that finish with losing records. I would say the vast majority, or at least the majority of teams with losing records, have losing records, not because of poor offense, but more so because of poor defense. And if that's the case, then, and I think that also explains why playoff games in general tend to be lower scoring, because you've got a better defensive team going up against a better defensive team, and not better defensive team going up against a very weak offensive team. Just the two defenses are better.
Generally speaking, I'd like to expound upon that a little bit. There's this year, your overs in these playoff games have actually been more than in the past. Usually they tighten up, but that has not been the case now for some reason. Very strange.
I think we've had some overtime games, and we've also had a lot of games where one of the teams had a big lead. And when there's a big lead in the game, especially if it's second, third quarter, the pace tends to pick up a little bit. And so it's more easy to score. But we saw in that Indiana-Cleveland game, I think it was the first game on Sunday, that looked like that was going to be an under into the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, the last 6 minutes, that's when Indiana had that 12-point lead, and Cleveland came back to take, I think it was a 2-point lead, and then they played. Indiana took out the rest of the game. So I forget exactly how many points they scored in the last 6 minutes, but it turned into turning a game that appeared to be somewhat under the total into a game that went over. And that happens when you have large margins during a part of the game where the pace tends to pick up. Number one, the team that's got the large margin continues to play as it has, which means doing the things that they did to get that large margin, and the other team has to start playing a little bit more aggressively offensively.
So is Denver the only pick here then, as far as the good value to win the series? Would you take the Knicks at 270, Golden State at 155, or the Cavs at 175?
Well, I can't play the Cavs anymore because they're down 0-2, and I don't know if those three players, what their status is. I have no idea if they're playing or not. And, would
the Pacers be a good play at 205?
Well, up 2-0, I think they have to be. Yeah. And they're and actually the Pacers are a pretty good team. Bottom line, they could have won this series without any injuries.
All right. And then so
the two that I would look at would be I couldn't play the Knicks. I could certainly play Denver because of their experience and their strong home court. Of the other two series, I can't play Indiana. I just can't lay 2-1 on Indiana because we don't know the health of Cleveland. I mean, they can't.
Why can't we parlay Indiana with Denver?
Because I don't feel comfortable about Indiana.
Well, even up 2-0.
About that, Andy, is if this was a boxing match and you were going into the 8th round and you had the one boxer at 2-1 and he's just won the first 8 rounds, I might bet him. That's what I kind of look at. I think Cleveland could be done because here's a couple of reasons for this. Donovan Mitchell got beat up last night. He scored 48 or 49 points. He got knocked all over the place. The 3 guys that sat out, there's going to be a lot of criticism of those guys because they were not that hurt that they couldn't suit up and give a few minutes.
At least a few minutes, yeah.
Yes, that was to me, that's shameful. Totally shameful, which is why I got so goddamn pissed off about it. But bottom line is they use so much energy in that game, the Cleveland Cavs.
Yeah.
And now they're going back to Indiana. And Indiana is good to begin with. Yeah. They are good. And because when you look at their January, February stuff going forward, forget November, December, they were as good as anybody. So bottom line is I could easily lay 2-1 on the Pacers. And bottom line, when I get off this, I'm actually going to go do that.
All right. So we just lost Andy. I'm sure he'll be back. So would you agree then, Jim, that you even though Indiana and Denver might be good plays at series prices, you don't feel as do you feel anything with the Knicks or Minnesota Golden State?
Well, first of all, the Golden State issues is serious now because Curry pulled hamstring and he only played 13 minutes. Now they still won. Buddy Hield had another great game. You remember him from Oklahoma. He can shoot, and when he gets hot, he's hot, and he's been hot a couple games now. So Andy is back. I see him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would have to worry about Golden State if Murray, if not Murray, but if
Curry.
Curry is not going to be there. I don't think long term they can win without him.
That's it. And that's the one series. That's the one series I was going to say I could also play is Golden State plus the 155. They've already what a road team wants to do by winning the first of the 2 road games, which means they don't really need to play Curry if in game 2 they still might have a chance. Remember, Golden State beat Minnesota, several times in the regular season when they met, so they know they can. They've got the experience, etc. Despite the fundamental matchups that we've talked about, Jim, especially about Golden State's lack of inside presence, they still managed to have success against the Timberwolves, who for some reason just can't seem to get over that hurdle. But if they give Curry the rest in game 2, that means he will have probably had 3 or 4, maybe 4 days off, I think, before Game 3, and that makes Golden State dangerous at home because they're going to be playing at home with a more experienced team. So I think plus 155. And it's interesting, and I think it's because of the Curry uncertainty that this Minnesota Timberwolves line is basically the same where it was pregame yesterday, where they were minus 190 in most places. So there's been a very small adjustment. Most of it had to do, I'm sure, with the questionable status of Curry, the uncertain status. But I don't know if that adjustment is enough because of the fact that Curry, I won't say probably, doesn't have to play Game 2. Warriors are going home either up 2-0 or tied 1-1 with at that point the home court advantage. So Curry could rest in Game 2.
If you can, Andy, because when you came back, even though we can hear you, the mic just went really louder. If you can lower it a little, if that's possible.
Okay, let me see what I can do here.
All right. So, and then wrapping up, let me take a look at if we have. Yeah, wait a second. There we go. Where are we? There we go. Let's see if there are any good championship futures here. All right. So you have two heavily favored teams that we don't want to touch because the odds are ridiculous and they're both already down 1-0. So here, out of these 6 other teams, are any of these good value, Jim?
Well, I think I got to go. I'm going to stick with the Pacers and the Nuggets.
No, not series. I'm talking championship futures. Are you looking at them? Can you see them?
Oh, yeah, I do see them now. Yeah, I do.
So out of those 6 teams, which have the most value, which one of those or 2 of those championship futures teams would you say have the best value?
Well, the problem is, first of all, I would say the best value to win it all of these 6 teams would be the Pacers and the Nuggets.
Same 2 teams.
Yes.
All right. So 16-1 and 18-1 with Indiana and Denver as far as the futures are concerned. Andy, what do you think about the best value championship futures?
I could certainly agree with the Pacers at 18-1, especially if you consider the fact that in most likelihood, and the odds suggested at minus 205, that they're going to get by Cleveland. So they would then have to get by Boston, who has shown some vulnerabilities, again, relying perhaps a little bit too much on the 3. So, I mean, if you're looking at like Boston plus 185 to win the championship and Indiana at plus 1800, and they're going to face each other, the value is with, I think, Indiana at this number. And then depending upon who they face out west, could it be, I don't know, OKC, I guess, is still the favorite, notwithstanding. I would say that Denver and Indiana might be the 2 best values right now.
All right. So you agree. So there you go.
We have the same thing.
Those are for the NBA futures. And now what we're going to do is turn our attention to Major League Baseball. And
by the way, Greg, is my volume a little bit better now?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. I think I found out the issue.
Okay. So now as we talk baseball, the first month of the season is in the books. We're already in month number 2. And of course, the Dodgers are still the heavy favorites to win it all based on the futures there. Let's since we're in future mode, let's start there.
By the way, let me just read this thing that just came out minutes ago. Warrior Steph Curry expected to miss multiple games with hamstring source. With hamstring strain, says a source. Golden State Warriors will be without for Game 2 and likely longer, a team source confirmed on Wednesday. Suffered a grade 1 hamstring strain in the series opener, blah, blah, blah. So that explains a lot of these prices. Yeah.
It takes a long time to heal from that.
Is that still at Minnesota? What were they, 185? Is that even though they're down 1, do you feel
let me see if there's an adjustment. I'm going to see if there's even an adjustment that came over on those series lines, and I don't see anything that's come over yet. In fact, I think they may have taken it down.
Okay. Well, you guys will be talking hoops when, tomorrow or Friday?
Whenever Andy wants to do it.
All right. So
yeah, either day is
check back.
Jim and I will decide.
Yeah. Check back.
Because I think there's only one game tomorrow night. So
subscribe to the channel. So
maybe Friday then. Yeah.
Let's so let's go here with again, it's all about whether or not you believe that the Dodgers are vulnerable. That's really all it is.
Yeah. But by the way, just one moment for Jim, as far as the NBA, 2 games Friday, 2 games Saturday. So we'll have all 8 teams in action if we do it Friday morning.
We'll do it Friday morning.
All right, let's start baseball again for a third time. The Dodgers are at plus 250, and they're clearly the favorites. We all knew that before the season began. It's way too early still at this point to guess whether or not they're vulnerable. So I don't know if you guys feel that baseball is it, because we talk about futures all the time in all these other sports, and you always think that, you know, even when the Chiefs are the Chiefs, you still think that, all right, well, there might be a team that could beat them, and it happened this past year. So is there a team that could beat the Dodgers realistically?
Yeah.
Okay, and if so, which one of these future plays?
They're not on the screen, but the Padres are real.
Yeah, I'll ask this question, and Greg, you and Jim, who's the ace of the Dodgers staff? Who's their best starter?
I don't know. I don't know that they have one.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. That there's no real stopper on that staff. I might actually.
Well, then why is everybody talking about how great they are then?
Because of the offense.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
so the media is inflating the Dodgers then as much as they were inflating these NBA teams. You're saying?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, that's good. All right.
And
hey, I'm not going to argue with you.
Remember too, a month ago we weren't knowing that Padres would look as good as they have. Now, yesterday they didn't play very well, but
they had one bad inning late.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
10 runs.
So they're 22-1. And a very tough division. Where's San Francisco in this thing? Aren't all 4 teams playing well? There they are, 40-1. 40-1. Arizona 25.
San Francisco's flattened out a little bit, but they're still good.
All right. So the Padres, that's the hot team. That's the team right now, as of May 7th, 2025, that you think is good value, 22-1 to win the championship.
Well, let's talk about just their division. I mean, yeah, I would think they're great value to win their division. That's not a division price, but I think the Padres could easily win that division.
Yeah, go up a little bit if you could, Greg, on that. What are the Phillies? 13-1. That's a little bit too low. I would have liked maybe closer to 18-20-1 because, you know, they've got Zach Wheeler, who's one of the top pitchers of the game, and Aaron Nola, who struggled early, veteran. He's pitched very well his last few starts. Sanchez has been pitched well, and now Ranger Suarez, who looked good in his minor league rehab, made his first start the other day. Didn't look all that sharp, but he's doing. I like Philadelphia's top 4 in their rotation. And actually, I'll throw Jesus Luzardo in, who pitched really well, a lot of strikeouts and everything. So I think on balance, I would say Philadelphia. I'd like to see a little bit of a better price because, well, I guess you can't really say much about Atlanta yet, although they have improved. But the Mets are playing extremely well. So you've got 3 teams in that division, again, who could make the playoffs. That's what makes the Philadelphia line low.
What do you think about the Mets, Andy?
I like the Mets because similarly, I'm trying to think who their best pitchers are. Maybe Senga, maybe Peterson, who's pitching well for them, but I don't really see a true ace on that staff that comes to mind immediately. You know, if I take a look at the 3 staffs in the starting rotations between the Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets, I probably have the Phillies. Well, I know I have the Phillies number 1, and I might have Atlanta a little bit ahead of the Mets, although Atlanta's got some injuries there, and Schwellenbach has been schwelled in a couple of his recent starts, whereas Strider is out also after just that one start, and the Mets seem to be fairly deep as far as their potential. But then again, that's reflected in the plus 850 odds for the World Series, which you know is. Some people would say Dodgers plus 250, 5-2 is not bad. But again, I just don't like their pitching staff, especially their starting rotation, to be able to deliver in the dog days of August.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they don't have the pitching, 250 is terrible. I mean, I wouldn't touch 250 with a Major League Baseball team to win a championship.
That's too low.
Yeah. Not at this point of the season, especially.
Exactly.
You know, let's see if they're plus 250 and they make some transactions at the trade deadline to strengthen themselves. Then the 250 probably goes down to plus 200, but you feel more comfortable taking plus 200 knowing what their fall roster is going to look like than plus 250 right now, where you've still got several.
Well, that's not even an if. You're not that loaded, and then the deadline comes, and then you don't do any. They'll do what they have to strengthen their pitching staff. But still, you're still gambling on the fact that that's not only going to happen, but that they're going to make the perfect deal.
American League is a lot more interesting as far as trying to find teams, because I don't think there's any clear-cut favorite amongst the American League teams, or at least there shouldn't be.
Okay. So in that same respect, taking a look, let's see, overall at the standings in Major League Baseball, as they try to throw in a stupid ad here. Let's see.
Detroit has the best record, followed by Seattle.
So let's just go by these divisions. So the Yankees, wow, this isn't even this division. Only one team is over 500.
And that's only by 4 games.
Wow. What happened?
By the way, we are almost another few days. We will be at the 1/4, the 25% mark of the season when they get to 40 games.
So who would be considered the disappointing team overall in this division?
Well,
the most disappointing team.
Baltimore was thought to be pretty good, and they have not showed up at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, Baltimore. Is there a pleasant surprise or I'd say Boston might be. What's there? They're 18 and 19, I think, in the early going. Yeah, I think Boston might be considered a bit of a surprise. We didn't know what they had coming into the season, although the Crochet, the kid they got from the White Sox, has performed exceptionally well. Houck, who's going today, Tanner Houck, started the season miserably. We had that one really bad game where he gave up like 7 runs in like 2 innings or something. His last few starts have settled down, and he's pitching more like he did last year, which was a surprising breakout season for him. So I'd say Boston a little bit of a surprise. Did
you really think Detroit and the Cleveland would be playing this well at this point?
Detroit, yes, because they made the playoffs last year. I think, did they eliminate Baltimore in the first round series? I think in the first series, shut them out or something in the games. The team that I like right now, and I don't know, it's a surprise, because really we figured everybody but the White Sox in this division would be competitive, and even right now you've got 3 of the 5 teams other than Minnesota and White Sox above 500. The team that I like, a lot of it has to do with their pitching, is Kansas City. I have them ranked with a very good starting rotation and also one of the better bullpens in the league, and I think that I like that, especially late in the season. And one thing that when we bet on baseball and you analyze these games, we've talked, Jim and I, about starting pitching and how it's been less important. I like to look for staffs that have a large number of their starting rotation are able to go 6 innings into a game, because all those innings add up. And if you're able, the difference between a starting staff averaging, let's like 6.3 innings per start versus a staff averaging 5.3 innings per staff, is that when you get to August, late July and August, the bullpens haven't been used as much as those teams that can't get starters to go even 5 innings on average. So it really shows up late in the season if you've got fresher bullpens, and that relies on your starting pitching being able to go deeper into games than other staffs.
All right. So
in the one division with the Mariners, the Athletics, and the Rangers, those 3 teams by the end of the season you could throw a blanket over these guys. Do you think anybody there, Andy, sticks out with? I mean, we really start to have to dig into the middle relievers and the closers too, and we're talking about starting pitchers, but they're not as important as they used to be. We all know that, because they don't allow them to pitch. So
Seattle for real?
Yes, because they've got a very good starting rotation, and they're starting to get their offense together. I think Seattle is the best balanced team in that division. I'd say the biggest surprise in that division has to be the Athletics.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even have a first name.
Yeah, they're like the Utah Hockey Club. Who I think
where do they play?
Right,
Sacramento.
Are they getting a new stadium?
Yes, in Vegas. Yes.
Yeah, they're coming to Vegas.
2028, I believe, is the target date.
2028.
Yeah.
Is there a wager on whether or not they will begin in 2028? Because I'll take against that. Give me the odds that whatever year they say, I'm going against it.
I would say, because in Vegas, and Jim, you know this, they construct things very quickly. They are very good. Allegiant Stadium came in sooner than was expected to. The new ballpark.
Oh, it ain't a Vegas
minor league team. Yeah.
It's an Oakland thing. It's an Oakland A's.
No, they're out of Oakland. They're out of Oakland.
No, I'm just saying they're an organizational thing. So
it's not them. It's Vegas. Yeah. Vegas is a money town. We will have that damn stadium built. We will have it ready.
Yeah. It's going to be where the old Tropicana was.
Where is it going to be?
We're
On the Strip.
Tropicana. Yeah,
On the
by
Strip.
On the Strip.
Okay.
Well, Allegiant Stadium is a little bit further south of that on the Strip.
And how do they already know the size?
I don't recall what it was. It wasn't. I don't think it was going to be. It's not going to be like Allegiant Stadium. It's probably going to be more in the 35 to 45,000.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, they should. They should.
Yeah,
because I mean, you can't put. You start putting too big of a stadium, and then you got empty seats. So you don't want to see that.
Well, it is going to be, I believe, Jim, domed.
Well,
because of the summer heat.
The heat here in the summer. I mean, you can't possibly play in this
24 hour, all completely domed. Nothing you can do. You can't open it up.
It may be retractable. I'm not sure.
I don't know that answer. I don't know.
Baseball could be tough in Vegas because it's not like football where you play 8 or 9 home games a year in a regular season. Here you're talking about 81 games during the course of a regular season, and it'll do well. Now, it's of course a smaller capacity, but and their success had a lot to do with it. Golden Knights have been like sellouts almost every game since the first season, but you're talking about an arena that holds maybe 18, 19,000.
Yeah, that's why I said they should keep that stadium capacity low so you can get sellouts.
But again, and this is one of the things you have with the Raiders and certainly with the Golden Knights. A lot of out-of-towners come in when their team is playing here in Vegas, and they'll make a 3-day weekend out of it, which is perfect for baseball, a 3-day midweek thing because you play 3-4 games in a row. And so the fans from Chicago or Detroit or Milwaukee, wherever, can justify coming out here for 3-4 days in Vegas because they get to see their team play, and they're going to see it in comfortable indoor environment if it's 110 degrees outside.
Okay, so then between Seattle and Kansas City, Detroit, and any of these struggling AL East teams, do you think there's any value? World Series
Kansas
value?
City. I like Kansas City
At 28-1.
Yeah, it's probably what I would like more, again, because the Dodgers are so heavily favored, and they might be, the teams in the National League will probably be more tested than the teams in the American League because you've got more top teams in the National League. Kansas City, I might take a look at the odds to win the American League because I think it's much the competition. I want to say it's easier, but much more balanced than the American League. And the other thing I like about Kansas City is I think that they are the best team in the American League Central, and I think you're going to have 3, if not 4 teams contending for the title. I think like you did last year, a lot of these teams, because I think Detroit, Minnesota, and Cleveland are all capable of winning records, and Kansas City will have had a lot of competition against those teams, so they will have been tested against teams that are likely to either make the playoffs with them or certainly be very close. So I like Kansas City on balance compared to what their odds are, and the fact that they play in a division where I think they have the best starting rotation and the best bullpen and a decent enough offense to be compensated for. That'll compensate for the outstanding pitching that they have, or be compensated for by.
All right. So in the National League, let's see. Any teams? Who's the most surprising team?
I think the Cubs.
San Francisco and the Cubs. Yes,
they stand out to me. They're playing good ball. They got a nice record. Of course, you can see that looking at the chart. But that's a surprise to me that they're playing as well as they are.
I'd say San Francisco, based upon, now I don't have it in front of me what their season win totals were, but I've got to believe San Francisco is right now on a pace to exceed their season win total by maybe 15 games.
So they're definitely the odds are completely different. The Cubs are 16-1, even though the record right now is actually better for San Francisco in a tougher division. The Cubs are 16-1, and the Giants are 40-1. So do you still think that based on those odds, the Cubs are a better play because of the weaker division and gives them an easier chance to the postseason?
Well, yeah, because the Cubs don't have to beat the Padres and the Dodgers.
Or is it worth taking a little bit of a couple of bucks and just saying, yeah, maybe San Francisco, if they can get to the postseason at 40-1, that's well,
not you might want to throw some pizza money on it for sure. I mean, at 40-1 is a big number.
All right.
And he's gone again. He's gone.
Yeah. So let's see. We've got the Padres at 22. We got the Royals at 28. And
you got to throw some money on the Cubs and the Giants because of the The Cubs because they're in great position playing good ball, but the Giants because it's such a big number.
So the Cubs, even though the number is, it's a little low at 16, you think that's still good enough?
Well, because of the division they're in, and
it guarantees them almost a division title.
They have a much better chance of getting there.
Okay, and what's good about the Cubs? What do you like about the Cubs? Anything in particular?
They're just playing solid ball, man. I mean, the tough ballpark. A lot of times they're playing in windy conditions. They're used to it. There's a lot of, and they got momentum and they got confidence, and the teams in their division are marginal at best. So I don't see anybody in their division that's scary. Milwaukee is always a little bit of a threat, but I like the Cubs in there.
How is this team still? How come they haven't disbanded this team?
Who?
The Pirates. This is a joke.
So are the White Sox in the American League.
I mean, do they even attempt
to come back?
Look, I know we all know that Major League Baseball. We're not going to go down that road today about how unfair it is. Everybody knows it, but I mean, still, at least teams like, say, Oakland or Tampa, they can still find a way to compete. How can you? It's got to be the owner, right? Have they had the same owner?
Yeah, I think so for a long time.
Can't they get rid of the owner? Can't they say enough is enough? I mean, if you're not going to find, because that's not good for Major League Baseball. I mean, I guess it's up to the Pirate fans, right? They just have to stop going to the games.
Yeah. By the way, in that division, even though they are 18 and 19, I think most people would say Cincinnati has been a major disappointment this year based upon the preseason expectations. And a lot of people really like Cincinnati to win that division this year. And they have struggled, even though they've got some good pitching and some decent hitting. They just haven't been able to get it all together. And I think that Cincinnati
100 to 1, and they're a 500 team. So there's no hope for the Reds then.
10,000 to 1.
Well, that's 100 to 1. Yeah.
No, 100 to 1.
Yeah.
Well,
so
that's hope. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
I think
even at 500, there's no hope. Like, have they had any injuries?
Well,
they're plus 29 is not bad.
They have the pitching to get a run going. I mean, they do have some guys that can really throw.
Look at their and they're, well, keep in mind, okay, one thing to keep in mind as you look at this stat, I'm going to point it out. 177 runs scored, 148 allowed, plus 29. That's impressive, isn't it?
That's what I said.
Yeah, except for one thing. 24 of those runs they scored were in one game.
Well,
no, I'm serious. That's going to inflate their numbers because that is a huge outlier.
Well, 4 games ago, they were 18 and 15.
Yeah. So and they also got shut out 3 straight days, 1-0.
All right. I'm not sure what that means, but
bottom line is they're very inconsistent.
And that's why they're 500. And that's so, but bottom line is they're 100 to 1. So have they had any injuries since the beginning of the season? Anything like that? Because anytime you talk about a team that has been disappointing, it's only 1 month and this is a long season. And so if they're disappointing for a month, why can't they become the team everybody expected them to be?
Well, nobody expected them to be a World Series challenger. I think most people expected them to win mediocre division.
I don't think anybody expected them to be outstanding. It just fair, good.
Okay.
Not outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I don't think 500's all that disappointing then. So then any other teams?
Well, the thing I was going to mention, Greg, Arizona is also to be considered in the West, but they'd be playing behind the Giants, who are a surprise, Padres and Dodgers. And I think that's part of the reason why you'll see Cincinnati such long odds, because there are a good 8 or 9 teams that are better than them in the National League, and they're all really good teams. I'd say Arizona, San Francisco, San Diego, the Dodgers. I'll put the Cubs in Milwaukee, and I'll put certainly, based upon the roster, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and the Mets, all better than Cincinnati, and all of them are playing better than Cincinnati.
It's just like the NBA. The West is stronger, and the same thing in baseball. What
happened here?
They were following the Pittsburgh playbook.
That's another disaster.
Haven't they normally been a pretty good franchise?
They have, and take a look at that one number before you move up. Look at that run scored, 106. I believe that is probably the lowest by a decent margin in all of baseball, which is surprising because they have their home run road records somewhere up there because they play in Colorado, which has generally been known for offense because of the altitude. So Colorado just doesn't have much of a lineup anymore.
Wow.
They lost guys like Arenado. I think a couple of guys, Goldschmidt, I think may have been there for a while.
Yeah, Helton.
But,
yeah,
that was a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point because in that stadium, they're scoring an average of 3.1 runs a game. Not in that stadium, but overall. So that is incredibly low.
They should be 5 or 6 at home because the ball just flies out.
Yeah.
That's incredibly low. All right. So then what we're going to do in that overall scheme of things for the futures, we're going to go with San Diego at 22-1, San Francisco at 40, the Cubs at 16 in the National League, and Kansas City at 28-1 in the American League.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. I would prefer to play some of those to win the pennant as opposed to win the World Series.
All right. That's okay.
Oh no! Well, you're asking.
No, I mean that's
that's
a given. That's fine. But you could also hedge. So
it's just like I do in football. I try to play division situations rather than looking at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because it's too long of there's too much luck in that. So I go division by division.
But not only that, because if you go division by division, whoever wins some of those divisions or makes the playoffs as a wild card are going to have much better odds than they should once the playoffs begin, because you're going to have the big favorites like the Buffalo, the Kansas Cities, maybe the Philadelphias now, and the San Franciscos. So some of these other teams that have won some of the lesser divisions or the not quite as powerful divisions have a shot, and you'll see those guys, maybe at odds of 25-30-1 to win the Super Bowl when there's only 14 teams remaining.
All right, so we want to let everybody know that coming up later this month, we talked a lot of basketball and baseball today. Next week, we're going to talk about, because next Wednesday's show is going to be recorded on NFL schedule release day.
Schedule release, yeah.
So we are going to go over our best and worst off seasons in the NFL so far, combining coaching, free agency, the draft. We're also going to give our way too early top 14 NFL playoff teams. So that'll be a lot of fun. The WNBA season starts.
By the way, what's the purpose of that? Is that to sort of like if we think that there's a value team to play right now, possibly?
The purpose of that is to entertain our viewers, Andy.
Okay, entertain is one thing. Okay.
Yes.
That's fine.
We don't seriously think that we are going to advise anybody to.
Wait a minute. Greg, Andy and I both know the final score of the Super Bowl. We already know it.
But that's why you have to keep it for as long as possible. So people keep checking back because they have no idea when you're going to release it. So,
yeah.
Also, the WNBA season starts.
By the way, the only thing that would be surprising is if the teams that we mentioned next Wednesday to make the playoffs are the same as the ones we'll mention at the end of August.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It'd be crazy if that was the case. The WNBA season will start 2 days after our show next Wednesday. Jim is going to start his weekly WNBA show on Monday of next week to get you ready.
Andy's involved in that too.
Yeah, I'm going to try. Okay. I'm going to be up to speed on that by then.
Okay. So you're also going to make sure.
Greg, I think the first game in the WNBA is actually the 16th.
I said 2 days after this show next Wednesday, Jim.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
That would be the 16th. Yes.
Yes. Right. So Jim will have his Monday show.
It's very early in the morning for me to have to do math.
Yes. So Jim will have his Monday weekly show for the WNBA along with Andy starting next Monday. We'll talk about that on next Wednesday's show. And then also I will pin these guys on maybe 1 or 2 championship picks because I will have the WNBA championship odds on this show next week. And we'll see which way they go. We'll give some PGA Championship picks next week because the PGA Championship is next Thursday. So that's the second major on a PGA Tour. And hopefully we'll get John Hardoon back, who, of course, partners with me each week on our horse racing coverage. If you watched us last week, before the Kentucky Derby, you saw the clips of John predicting both winners in the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. So I hope you didn't miss that. We're going to see now no Triple Crown this year. So Sovereignty not going to race in the Preakness. By the way, when he was interviewing, I was talking with John, texting with him after the race, and after the interview, and I'm going to show this on our horse racing show tomorrow. After the interview, it's like a minute and a half interview. The guy has the trainer, on the grounds talking
Bill
about,
Mott.
Bill Mott talking. He ends the interview without asking him about the Preakness. And I was like,
I thought I heard someone ask him about it, and he said, well, maybe it wasn't the interview you're
not
talking
that
about.
Interview.
Somebody at the track.
Not that interview.
Before they left the broadcast.
Nope, not that interview. And if
that's
the first time you got the guy right, his first words on national TV for a minute and a half, you ask him a few questions, and you do not ask him. I'm not surprised if somebody after is what you're saying, Andy, did ask him, because that idiot was the one who was supposed to ask him. So,
and you know what the answer he was going to give? We want to see how the horse comes out of the race. That's
well, it doesn't matter.
Answer.
But it doesn't matter. You have to ask the question because you never know. You never know, and you just have to ask it because that's what everybody wants to know. Anyway. And again, the problem with that is like 10, 15 years ago, that wouldn't even been a question. That would have, of course.
Oh, well, that's when they had that. They don't have that bonus money anymore, do they?
No, the money is not the thing. It's that they
had the $6 million thing. Remember, if you
I think they still. I don't think that's changed.
I haven't heard anything.
I don't believe it has. I don't know, but that's not it. It's more of the fact that they're looking at a few things, including stud fees, they want this horse to be in one shape. There's a lot of other races and money to be made because they know how hard it is. Because if you wind up bringing this horse to the Preakness and you win that race, then you basically have to go to the belt it's now at Saratoga.
Well, you know what they should do, Greg, in all honesty, because of that issue, maybe you have the Preakness a week later. So you have 3 weeks between the Derby and the Preakness and 3 weeks between the Preakness and the Belmont, not 2 and 3.
But the problem is that then there would be that asterisk. And,
no, there wouldn't.
Oh, yes, it would.
Well,
that's a big deal.
Is there an asterisk for the Belmont right now? I guess there must be because that's a mile race now. Now they're redoing Belmont and they're having the race.
Honestly,
Saratoga.
There should be.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. There should be. And maybe that went into his thinking because if I was a trainer and I knew that, well, if I win the Triple Crown this year, it's going to be done at Saratoga and people are going to be, so yeah, I wouldn't doubt.
No, they'll still say he's a Triple Crown winner based upon the rules for winning the Triple Crown.
But there'll be an
asterisk. That's going to increase the stud fees.
No, but there'll be well, if that was the case, then he would have raced him. So
he's concerned about the horse.
What's that?
He's concerned about the horse. That's why he's not racing him in the Preakness. It's too soon.
It is too soon to me.
Andy, you go. I don't even know. You're going in 3 different directions. I don't know which one to go at.
No, I'm saying that he's not racing in the Preakness evidently because he wants the horse to be rested. He's already said he's going to the Belmont.
Like I said, I don't even know what we're talking about now. So, all right. So next up, and that'll be next week's show. So in 2 weeks, we are going to talk college football. Excuse me. Not only are we going to give our way too early NFL teams, we're going to give our way too early college football playoff teams, and we're also going to take a look at the latest in the NBA and Major League Baseball, like we did today. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. Next week, it's going to be NFL, WNBA, a little golf, a little horse racing, and that's we catch right here at Playbook ATS Podcast. Mark will be back in early June. Of course, he's working on the publication, the yearly NFL college football publication, which is, if you haven't seen that yet, then
well, it's the Bible.
Too bad.
Yeah,
you better get it.
That's the Bible.
If you're handicapping.
Greg, can I mention the thing that I heard the other day about the one gentleman picking the football team to win the national championship? Can I mention that or should I not?
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a couple of weeks anyway. Sure.
Joe Klatt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't remember his name, but you did remember it. He picked
Colorado
Penn State.
player.
He picked Penn State to win the national championship.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I thought that was really interesting.
I mean, his video, he had basically his post spring. So I think it's going to be pretty much like we just talked about. Like he's going to say, as far as what I saw in the spring and what I know about these teams, these are my teams. But I bet you if something happens between now and August and he starts to look at the other teams, he might say, well, that was my post spring. Now I'm going to have my college football 2025 season preview top 12. But it makes a lot of sense based on what we mentioned, that Drew Aller is coming back and the 2 stud running backs are coming back.
When is the transfer portal end for football? When can guys no longer enter the enter the portal and play this year?
It's not.
That has a lot to do with it too. If it's already over versus if it's not over yet.
Yeah, no, it's they've got time. I don't know exactly what the date is, but again, we're talking college football in 2 weeks, so we'll talk about it then. Matter of fact, I'm going to interview Richie O'Leary from Rivals, who is on top of all of the college football portal news on my show on Our Lads on Friday. We're going to air that portion of the interview on this channel, so look out for that. And I will definitely make sure to ask Richie, obviously, about that question. We'll find out, like Andy said, when is the deadline to make sure that players are going to be eligible to play this year, which I think is probably going to be at least till the fall, my guess.
Do you have any of those odds for the futures yet, just out of curiosity?
Oh, yeah, there's college football futures.
What's Penn State? I've got to believe they're one of the top 10 favorites, if not even top 5.
Yeah, and again, I think the thing is with Penn State, as Jim alluded to, the first thing that you think about is their head coach. Yeah. And whether or not you believe that James Franklin is capable of winning a national championship. I think he eventually will if he's in the right situation. And maybe this year's a good situation. Yeah. Let's pop that up. Let's see what their odds are. I think look like they're the 4th or 5th team. They're 8-1. So they're the 5th team.
That's way too short.
And you have the usual
Ohio
suspects.
State 500. I can see Georgia plus 600. Those numbers. I guess if Arch Manning starts this year for Texas, that number is probably already baked into the plus 550. 8-1 seems a little short for Penn State, given their history, as you just pointed out.
By the way, Michigan's got a stud quarterback now, finally. A freshman stud quarterback. They haven't had a freshman 5-star recruit. Now, I don't know how long. I know that, what's his name? I think he was a 5-star. But
not McCarthy.
Yeah, but he did not get thrust into starting day one. He didn't even start until the second year. So this kid Underwood is going to start day one, week 1. And they haven't had one of those guys in a long time. Tennessee, without their quarterback, I guess they're still hanging around. So
they got the UCLA quarterback, right? Tennessee?
Yes. And Miami could be a really good team at 25-1. So
how's the guy who's going to take over for Cam Ward for Miami?
Well, I mean, again, this isn't our college football show yet, Andy. You're asking too many questions. We're going to talk about all this stuff in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's just the usual suspects, though. I mean, I don't think there are any surprises here. Again, that's why it's important to get through the entire portal process and see what's going on. And then we'll be able to figure things out. But there's no doubt that whoever we like in 2 weeks or next week in the NFL or college football, our minds definitely are going to be open to change, not just for injuries or portal news, but we just have a lot more time to just
evaluation time.
Yeah,
sure.
And
more preparation time.
Mark's publication, that'll help out.
Schedules, absolutely.
Schedules, also Phil Steele's magazine's always a great one. So, so a lot to talk about in football in the next coming weeks, starting next week on the show. And you guys are going to be back at it over the next couple of days, talking more baseball and basketball here. So don't forget to look out for these gentlemen. And also our horse racing coverage will be on live tomorrow at 7:00. We have 2 races from Aqueduct we're going to talk about. The Peter Pan Stakes is one of them. So that'll be at 7:00 live on the network. And I believe that is it for most of our coverage this week, besides some of the other shows that we normally have, some of the reports. And one last thing before we go, You can check it out right now. If you're watching this show, all you have to do is check the library of our channel, and you will see lesson number 2 from Jim Feist's Money Management series. So it just came out today on the channel. The first
they might even see the reaction I had to last night's game.
Well, that's on the channel as well.
Is that X-rated?
Unfortunately not. But it came close.
What'd you say, Andy?
Is that X-rated, the rant?
It probably should be.
So so anyway, you can check out the lesson number 2, and that's going to come out, by the way, every Wednesday. So Jim hasn't had to put one together now for a couple of weeks, because that one's been sitting in the library for 3 weeks. So Jim, you got to get on top of it now. Lesson number 3.
That's one thing there that I wanted to talk to Andy about. I can do it right here on live. Doing a money management thing, Andy, and basically I've got it down to picking a bankroll, keep a discretionary bankroll away from your normal bills and everything, and 2% of your bet on each game, consistency for the novice player, the beginning player. But I want to talk about some
bankroll building, betting. For example.
Pardon me?
Bankroll building.
Yeah, I want to keep them from going broke. That's that's the idea, is don't go broke. But you and I'd like to talk about some exotic wagers, parlays, teasers, round robins, things like that. How do people manage their bankroll when they start incorporating, and whether we suggest them to do it or not, they're going to do it. So I want to, and as far as math stuff, as math is about as anybody, well as anybody. So I thought maybe the two of us could jump in and do that.
Yeah, things like talking about chasing. How do you handle the ups and downs and the psychological aspects of?
But a lot of this discipline and mental strength. It's because the ups and downs will kill you. Like I had a big bet on the Wolves last night. You got Curry goes out in the first 13 minutes. These guys hit 17% of their threes. So I lost. But how do you got to overcome that? You got to bounce back. So it's how do you bounce back? It's the old story. You get knocked down 8 times, you got to get up 9.
Yeah, so, exactly.
That's it.
All right. So first couple of episodes have just been Jim, but hopefully we'll see more of Andy in that series. That series can go on for as long as they want the series to go on for. So
I think having 2 of us discuss it is better than just one person doing it alone, because you get a little conversational feedback back and forth. And I think the viewers probably enjoy that, to get different points of views at the same time on the same topic. We talk
about it as money management, but when you consider that betting on sports is like betting on the stock market or the commodities market or the currency market, you're basically investing. So the idea is, in my mind, and I know Andy agrees with this,
ROI.
Trying to make a profit. You're in the game to make a profit. You're not in the game to play and have action and entertainment. That's a whole different level of, we're professionals. Yeah, we want you to have fun. And if you're only betting $10 or $20, that's great. And if that's, not going to hurt your budget.
But the principles still apply.
Yes.
Right? Principles still apply.
So that's what we want to talk about. And because we can make you money, but, we would make you more money if we pick winners than if we pick losers. Of course, that's all part of it. But it's the same thing whether you bet on IBM or any stock or commodity or Bitcoin or anything. You got to have the right choices. But you can stay in the game even when you pick losers by being controlled and disciplined and
organized.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's why that series should be a success, I'm sure. It's not one of those series that will go away because the season's over. It's a type of series that is valuable information that will be good today, just like it will be good 10 years from now. So that's why just plan on checking it out. You can check it out anytime you like, refresh it. Maybe if you've seen it once before, you might want to, if you're somebody that gambles a lot, it'd probably be a good idea to refresh it every once in a while, just so you can refresh your brain of all the things that are really important to make sure that you are a success if you are somebody that gambles a lot.
By the way, you can, one of the, what was the quarterback? It was a backup quarterback most of his career, good friends with Warren Buffett. and I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah, no.
But I think you know who I'm talking about. I can't right now. It's not coming to me. But Warren Buffett just announced he's 94 years old. He's stepping down. One of the greatest investors ever. This gentleman has built $1 trillion
Berkshire
empire.
Hathaway.
There's
this
yes.
company, and now I forget what the price is per share. It's like 100 something thousand.
The man's been a genius. He lost his partner Munger
About a
was
year and a half.
Yeah.
One of his
And now Warren's stepping down. But this is all about investing. And a lot of the principles that he uses, and I follow him a lot, is applicable to betting on sports. It's all about that. So anything we're talking about is going to be usable in anything that you invest in. Real estate, buying a house, buying a car, how you manage it all. Because we want to just stay alive and not go broke and have fun and build a portfolio for when you retire and live a good life.
That would be nice for all of us.
Yes.
All right. So we're out of here. We'll see you guys again next week when we talk NFL, WNBA, golf, and horse racing. Thanks for tuning in to the Playbook Against the Spread podcast. And don't forget, Mark will be back, I believe, on the June 11th show. I think that's Wednesday, because that is when he will be done with the magazine, and we'll talk more football with Mark as well.
That's not far. That's not that far away now. We can say next month.
No,
one month. He takes 1 month off, and then he'll be back. So we'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Thank you.